Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of the CP Talkshow. On today's episode of the relaunch of the podcast, we have a guest with us today.
That's right.
Quite exciting.
Yeah, very exciting. Today's guest makes up of a ex-professional rugby league athlete. His name's Cory Paterson. So, and even though we're introducing him as a bit of a guest, I think further down the podcast we'll explain a little bit more permanent role that Cory's going to play with us. And yeah, I think a good place to start off, Cory, is first of all telling us a little bit about your background, because I think your background's, one, very impressive. Two, you've certainly done a lot. And maybe we can take a little bit of a trip down memory lane as to how we all got introduced together and sort of, because again, this hasn't just been a relationship that's formed overnight. It's probably been ongoing for about 6 or 7 months now. So I think a good starting point would probably be talking about, because you're also a professional boxer as well, aren't you? So you've done rugby and boxing.
Jack of all trades.
Yeah, exactly.
Master of none yet.
Jack of all, master of none. But no, tell us a little bit about that, because it must have been, for you gaining that experience at a professional level, you know, you've got to have some good memories there, and you've got to have learnt a lot along the way too.
Yeah, definitely. I think ever since I was a kid, I always wanted to be a professional rugby league player. Growing up in Australia, it's very similar to football over here, sort of a religion. And ever since I can remember, I just wanted to live that dream. And I was very, very fortunate enough to live it professionally for 14 years, pretty much my whole adult life. And, you know, I'm very grateful for those opportunities. Having retired, I think I probably look back on them a lot more. But I think when a lot of athletes retire, we sort of think, what's next, and how can we continue to evolve and grow and all these other things. And, you know, for me, I didn't really value my value a lot when I retired, but now I realise that the learning and the experiences, you know, by being a professional athlete, you know, things like dedication, teamwork, discipline, hard work, all these things that transfer into pretty much every professional career there is.
Yeah. Because I think we'll obviously, when talking about your background, a lot of it's going to be around rugby, boxing. But I think one message that we want to share right from the off is, even though your experience comes from maybe other sports, from football, the skills, the experiences are still very translatable to what maybe our listeners who are more football orientated can resonate with.
Yeah, I think I learnt through having my son Jax. He's at the academy at Liverpool, and I've never tried to coach him on how to be a footballer, because it'd be arrogant and ignorant of me because it's not my profession. But I know how to be a professional athlete. I know what it takes to prepare. I know what it takes to get the best out of yourself on, you know, a cold night in Liverpool or Manchester, wherever he's playing. I know what it takes. So for me, that sort of got me thinking on football, rugby, tennis, cricket, whatever it is. They're all just different vehicles. Yeah. The same commonality is professional athletes, and what it takes to it's hard getting there, but it's even harder staying there. You know, there's evolution, there's growth. Everyone's getting faster, bigger, stronger. So how can you set yourself apart to grow, not just with the rest, but further and faster? And yeah, that's just a different vehicle. Football, whatever sport it is, the mentality is still the same. The traits are still the same.
Because I'm right in thinking, aren't I, that the sport of rugby in Australia is worshipped like the sport of football here in England.
Yeah, it is. It's like a religion, and very passionate, very protective of their teams, which is great if you're on the supporters team. Away games are always interesting, but that's part of it. You know, I spoke to my son about this just last night. I said, if I judged myself or judged my happiness on what people thought of me, I'd be so miserable, because I've literally been called every name under the sun. Yeah. And I never take it personal. You know, when you're in the spotlight, you have certain responsibilities, certain role model type attributes that you have to uphold. And especially with social media coming in and things like that, it gives everyone a platform to say whatever they like. Now, if I judged my happiness on what everyone said about me, especially when I was playing, like I said, I'd be miserable. So a lot of the stuff that I learned, especially since I've been a bit older and had kids and things like that, is that one person will like you, and then you walk around the corner and that person will hate you for the exact same reason, and that person likes you. So you're not going to please everybody.
Was that ever difficult to sort of retrain your, because especially rugby player, boxer, you'd have thought that any negative comment, the instant reaction is to fight back. But obviously, when, like you say, you're in the spotlight, you get those comments said to you, you can't behave in that way. But if someone crossed you on the street and said those same things that they were saying on social media, it'd be a different story. So was it ever difficult, and was there any moments that you remember that were, you know, hard to sort of retrain in that aspect? Is it something that you got supported with, or is it something that you've had to learn personally?
It's definitely plenty of times where I was like, you so-and-so,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
When I debuted, there was no social media. You know, it was beers and pizza after the game.
Yeah.
Still full-time, still professional, but that was the era that I started in. Then probably 3, 4, 5 years into my career, your Facebooks, your Twitters, your Instagram came out right in the middle of it, and I'm like, these guys can say what they want about me and I can't. So probably the first year or two was quite hard. That was probably, why are they saying that? They wouldn't say it to me in the street, but they got a free platform now to say whatever they want. And it does hurt because you might get 100 comments and 99 will be saying, you're the man, you're great. But that one comment will be like, you're shit.
Yeah.
You're rubbish. Go somewhere else. And you'd be like, why? What?
Yeah.
What? And you'd focus on that one negative comment. Over time, life experiences, figuring out what really mattered. I wouldn't say I trained myself, but I think I just adapted and evolved and became flexible with criticism. And, you know, the only real criticism from people who I listened to was 1, myself, 2, my coaches, and 3, my teammates. Your family are always going to say you play well. Your family are always going to support you, even though you played like a busted ass. Your family, like, you had a great game. Didn't you see that? That was awful. Yeah. So we're always our harshest critics. So once I narrowed that field of people who I validated their opinions of, it just gave me a lot more peace. Still not nice to have bad things written about you, but you can't please everyone. Yeah. And you just develop thicker skin over time and experience, I think.
Yeah, I like that. So with your boxing then, was that alongside rugby, or was it a case of coming away from rugby and then starting boxing? Or did you always find the two, and, you know, you as an athlete, was you always fit for both sports?
Yeah, so I sort of worked it out that we'd have 6 to 8 weeks off in the off season from rugby. And I'd be like, I'd enjoy myself for a week and I'd be like, shit, I need a challenge. Yeah. And I thought, I've excelled in a team sport environment. Let's really challenge myself in a solo sport an arena. And I thought, I'm not any good at golf. I'm not any good at tennis, but I'm physical and I'm tough. And so I thought, well, and I've always boxed as a kid. So I thought, in these 6 weeks, I'm going to organise a fight, train hard, and then I'll come back to pre-season with a good base already fit. You know, I'm not going to be behind the 8 ball when pre-season starts, because that's hard. That's another 10, 12 weeks of just getting flogged every day. So I thought, well, if I can mentally recharge, try something different, excite me, at the same time get a physical benefit from it and a mental challenge from looking at someone and he's trying to knock you out and I want to knock him out. It's a scary thing, but it's an unbelievable feeling knowing that you do the work and then you get the result.
Because obviously boxing is a solo sport, rugby, and especially culturally in the game of rugby, it's very team orientated. Now, we work with players and athletes that, you know, we try and, our core service is individual training, but then we try and transfer that and the skills that we teach them as an individual to go and put that into a team environment. Now, although your sports were 2 different sports, did you recognise that some skills, being at the top level in boxing, you could transfer to rugby as well in a team environment? Like, how did those 2 different environments still correlate with one another?
I think from the boxing point of view, is you learn to become a bit more selfish, but selfish can be used as a negative or a positive. So when I was using the selfishness of getting as fit as I could, sort of not spending as much time at home or going on a holiday, that was selfish to my family and my friends. But I knew that whatever I did now, the hard work, the discipline, the dedication would then transfer and my teammates would get a better athlete because I was mentally stronger, I was physically stronger, I was physically fitter. So there wasn't necessarily any skill-based stuff, but in terms of mentality, mental toughness, mental resilience, you know, I was sparring guys before I'd fight. They used to punch the crap out of me. But there was a whole thing, train hard, fight easy. And I took that mentality into my rugby career, you know, train hard, play easy. And it just gives you so much confidence in yourself that you've done the work. And I think that was the biggest crossover, is that I was so much more confident in myself from the boxing to then take it into the team environment, that now my team, my club, my coaches, the fans were getting a much better player in person.
I guess both sports are massive on respect as well, aren't they?
Yeah. Look, the locker room in a rugby team is very sacred. It's very weird, but it's very sacred. You know, it's, if you're not one of the boys, one of the brothers, you can't fathom the connection that we had. And it's very sacred. And like this, if Adam's my teammate, he's got a ball and he's running into a brick wall of 13 guys with baseball bats that want to smash him. And if he's doing as hard as he can, I'm like, I love this guy. So then I'm like, well, I've got to do it because I want him to love me back. Yeah. It's so, there's a massive respect, because I know when I finished the game, I was exhausted. Every part of my body was sore, cuts, whatever it is. And I looked over at the bloke next to me and he was the exact same. And I was like, respect.
Yeah. I heard you talk a lot about like mental toughness and mental resilience. And you've obviously got to be physically fit and have physical attributes to perform at those levels that you did. But how much of an impact, or how important was having that mental toughness and having sort of the mental side of everything in check as well?
Not even when you reach the top, but actually getting there.
Getting there as well, yeah, because that's a whole journey within itself.
Yeah, the journey of getting there can be quite lonely, and it can be quite, you have to be different. You know, when all my mates were out partying, when all my mates were out drinking, I'd be like, nah, I can't, I've got training in the morning, or I've got a game in the morning, or whatever it was. And I was a weirdo. And I openly say that with pride, because I love my mates and I love everything about them. But I had a goal, I had a mission, a dream. And I realised pretty early on that if I did what everyone else was doing, I'd get what everyone else got. And I thought, you know what, I've got to be different. I've got to separate myself, find that X factor from within, because nobody else can do it for me. And I remember like being 14, 15, and I was running sand dunes and I was running sprints and I was doing weights by myself and, you know, writing goals on my walls, and the boys would just take the mick out of me, and I'd be like, well, we'll see.
Yeah.
And regardless if I made it or I didn't, I'd have no regrets, because I did everything I could. If for whatever reason, injury, just not good enough, whatever reason I didn't make it, I'd be okay. I'd be shattered, but I would have been okay, because I did everything I could.
What always fascinates me is like people's or individuals' motivators behind keeping going. You know, some it's family, some it's kids, some it's whatever situation. Some it's just the individual themselves. But what was it for you that kept you going when you described yourself as being that weirdo? It'd have been quite easy just to fit in with the crowd and go with what everybody else is doing. But what was your motivator to carry on being different, carry on working hard?
I just didn't want to be normal.
Yeah.
I just, from a very young age, I had dreams of grandeur in my head. And there was nobody, nothing that was going to take that away from me. And, you know, we talk about motivation, you know, either avoiding pain or accessing pleasure. Now, I could see the pleasure if I made it in my head. At the same time, the avoiding of pain of being normal, and I say that with respect, like I couldn't fathom being normal. Like I had to make it. There was literally like, it got to a stage when I was about 16 and I moved from home. I moved from Perth to Newcastle, the other side of Australia, by myself. And I was like, I've come too far now. I cannot go. Yeah, I cannot. And by myself, I was like, shit, I can't fail now. So then that was a pain motivator of, I've already sacrificed everything. Why stop now? You know, it's like, I'm not sure who says it, but when you're in the gym, it's like you're doing a set of 10 and you get to 8 and you're in pain and you're like, well, you're already in pain, get a result.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm like. I was like, shit, I'm already away from my family. I'm already in a different city. I've already done all these hard things. Make it worthwhile. And then I could see the visualization of running out in front of 30,000 people. I could see the visualization of playing for my country. I could see all these amazing things.
Did you do that a lot?
Unofficially, yeah. Yeah. I didn't really do a lot of specified visualization. As I got a bit older, I did. But I kept a lot of innocence in my childhood in terms of, yeah, I'm going to play in front of 30, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And you just play like... I remember there was a game and it was a draw and I had to kick a goal after the siren to win the match. And I did it. I kicked the goal, we won the game, blah, blah, blah. And the commentator was like, how did you deal with the nerves? I said, mate, I've done this 50,000 times in the backyard.
Yeah.
This was no nerves. I've literally, it's the last kick of the game. He's got to win it. I was like 50,000 times in the backyard.
Yeah.
So I'd already rehearsed it mentally from since I was 7.
So when you got in that moment,
I was already knew what was going to happen.
Yeah.
Easy
I already knew what was going to happen. I knew it was straight down the middle, and it was.
Because I think that can be such a powerful tool that you can use in your mind. But I don't think, I could be wrong, but my personal opinion is people don't do it often, just in general life, let alone, when we talk about professional sport. But visualize it, because I know nowadays you're quite big on visualization, everything to do with your mindset. So I definitely think that that's something that probably comes from being a professional athlete and being very mentally tough. But I don't think these techniques that are free don't cost anything.
Yeah.
It's just a bit of accountability on yourself. I don't think that they're valued enough day to day in everyone's life, because I know, Nath, you're quite big on it as well. You meditate quite a lot as well, don't you?
Yeah,
So
I think it just goes back to the power of what the mind's capable of. But I find it interesting, touching on the mental toughness thing that you were talking about. For me to know how much of that for you was an intrinsic thing you was born with, or how much do you feel like you had? You said since you was a kid you had these big visions. So I'm guessing that's part of the reason what carried you through to the pro athlete stage. But then how much of that was taught or learned over time? Where did you even?
So nature versus nurture. Yeah. Look, there's not one answer to the whole nature versus nurture debate.
Yeah.
I firmly believe, and there's actually science to back this up, you can't achieve anything in life unless you see it in your head first. It's everything. The Wright brothers couldn't invent the plane unless they visualized flight. Everything. As soon as you can visualize it, it's happened. It just hasn't happened in the physical dimension yet.
Yeah.
Then it's up to you to put things in place to capitalize and manifest that in a physical form.
I think it can even be sort of when you have the vision there, then I guess at least you'll know the steps that you have to put into place to get there. But then what would you say to someone who's how do you kind of train your mind to have these visions and not, because there's so many things of maybe I can't, doubt that.
Self-doubt, yeah. Self-sabotaging, all that stuff.
Yeah.
There's not one shoe size that fits all, unfortunately, but there are certainly a few amazing techniques and whatnot. And I live by a thing, dream, believe, achieve. If you can dream it, that's good, to dream about it, but you have to believe in it. And I've always been why not me? Why not?
yeah.
He's not any better or smarter or capable than me. And then literally you come into the achieve part. Right, let's come up with a game plan. I've got the dream. I've built up all this emotion and energy of believing it now. Let's achieve it. Yeah. And it can be with anything. It can be in business, sport, relationships. It can be whatever you want. Yeah. Self-growth.
And I'm interested, is mental toughness something that once you have it, it's sort of always there? Or how often do you keep training yourself to stay mentally tough? Because, although you're not doing the sort of boxing and rugby to the level you were before, there's other things, whether it's in business or any other personal projects you have that I'm sure that requires mental toughness. So is it something that you're still constantly training?
Is it the same as physical fitness, where you take a year out of training, you go back, it's tough? Is it something that you've got to continue training?
Yeah, you definitely have to continue to train it. I think for example, is mental toughness now is running 100s and then getting bashed up, or going into the ring and getting bashed. That's mental toughness, don't get me wrong. But now I've got 2 kids, I'm co-parenting, I've got multiple businesses. So there's a mental toughness there, and it comes to your values, down to your values. I value being a good businessman. I value being a good partner. I value being a good father, a good friend. Lower on my list is now, I don't value being a tough guy. I don't value being an elite athlete. So therefore it's gone down in my values list. So I put a lot more energy and effort into my top 3 or 4. And that in itself has mental toughness, because it's juggling this. It's, I get up early every morning so I can have a few hours to myself. That's mental toughness. I'll be hard on my kids when I need to be hard on my kids. I don't want to be hard on them, but I know that it's going to put them in good stead. That's mental toughness. The weak option is just to give them everything. Mental toughness is coming to meetings and participating when you're tired or you don't really are interested, but you've got to mentally switch on. It's a trained thing. But if someone said to me, Cory, you've got to go spar 6 rounds with whoever, I'd be like, let's do it. Yeah. I'm tough still. Like, I'd probably get the shit punched out of me. Yeah. But that old challenge of the physicality comes out. And I always speak to Emma, my missus, about it. I'm like, the one thing I miss about boxing and rugby is the contact of just like hitting blokes and just like, just little things like, because you're used to just always having that little bit of exertion. Yeah. And it's like, never malice or nasty, but it's just now if I get frustrated or angry or whatever, I'm like, well, 3 years ago I could just go smash that bloke and I feel better. And you wouldn't go to jail for it. Yeah. Now I walk down the street and I just smash some bloke, yeah, right, in jail for 2 years, you dare it, you know. So it's trying to harness different, so that's, for me, that's mental toughness, knowing how I can exert frustration, anger, all these things that.
So what's your outlook now then, if it's not as physical, or, you know, what do you sort of do to relieve that?
Do you still relieve it, or have you just trained yourself to cope with it better?
I think I'm a lot more aware and accepting of it. When I was younger, a bit more immature, I'd go on a loose cannon and just try and smash a few blokes. Where now, as soon as you're aware of it, you know, we talk about the first step to progress is awareness. I'm aware that I might be getting frustrated. I might be aware that I'm getting a bit temperamental, and then I'll just, you know, I'll either go a bit of training or I'll nut out some emails or whatever it is. And it's all different situations call for different techniques, if you will, behaviours. Yeah. There's not, again, what works for me may not work for you guys. You know, I'm 13 years older than you blokes. You guys haven't even lived yet. So for me, it's like, I'm not preaching to the choir, but this is what works for me. And I said, like, I'm no expert, but I'm an expert in my story. And that's the only story I can ever be an expert in.
I really like that. I think what's interesting for me is how the two worlds are completely different, because you've come from, obviously you're here, so you're living now in the UK, you're local. In Manchester, you also got your own coffee shop, Jacora, based in Urmston. Very good coffee, by the way.
Only the best, mate.
You've created that blend yourself, haven't you?
I have.
So if you're ever local to Manchester, near Trafford Centre, isn't it? So it's a gorgeous little place for a bit of a coffee.
7 Higher Road, Urmston.
But life's different for you now. Like you said, you've got a couple of businesses, you've got a family, co-parenting. That a completely different culture in terms of it's cold here. I'm guessing it wasn't when you was living in Australia. So, you know, what's the lifestyle like, and how have you made that shift work? Because it's big.
That's a great question. I think what we should do, go for a little break, and we'll jump back in with that question.
Yeah. So jumping back into it, I think before we stop there for a break, I think what I was really interested in when I was listening to you speak then was a lot around how the two environments of even just living in Australia, coming over to the UK, because like I said previously, you've got business now, you've got a coffee shop, you know, you're running multiple things, you've got a family, you've got co-parenting, you've got a young son who's in an academy as well. So it's like a lot of those areas that you touched on of how you had to almost retrain your brain a little bit, learn to cope. How have you made that work? Because that's a huge shift. You've not just moved towns, you've moved countries, and then you've done a completely new occupation. You know, some people never get the opportunity to even run a business. So the fact that you've been able to play at the top, you've ran a business and continue to run a business, you know, you've got loads of other interests, you've got a family that's, you know, beautiful, you're clearly a very good parent with, like, how are you that well-rounded? Like, how, in a way, like, how have you got all your shit?
Oh, it's not together. Don't worry about that. Yeah, it's what Instagram's for, isn't it? Yeah, look, I've been here 6-7 years now, so I feel at home. Australia will always be there. For example, my grandparents live in Liverpool, so I've got to spend time with them, which I normally wouldn't. You know, I've got businesses here. When I split from my ex-wife, she's got businesses here. My fiancée now, she's got businesses here. look, I'm probably more content and satisfied and grateful for my life than I ever have been, even when I was playing. Because for once, I'm judged as Cory the person, not Cory the rugby player. You know, and I think that's an identity issue I've potentially faced. You know, I was, oh, you play rugby, you do this. Well, I'm much more than that. Even when I was playing, I knew I was much more than that. But you can't show that a lot of the time because you're restricted by governing bodies, what you can and can't say, clubs, what you can and can't say. And I was never controversial or anything like that, but I never really felt that I could embrace my entrepreneurial self, my true self, because of those, you know, I don't want to call shackles, but limitations. So I think now, I just think that when you're playing sport, it's all result-based. You could have a 10 out of 10 game as an individual, but if you still lose, you'd be miserable because we're all competitive as.
Yeah.
Where now, so that was ingrained in me, a result-based. Where now, I've flipped the script and I'm like, I'll judge myself on my effort. And that's in parenting, that's in business, that's with my fiance, that's with my friends, that's with new people I meet. I judge my effort and the results will take care of themselves. Like when I met you guys, I was at my cafe. And straight away I was like, these dudes are switched on. From a business point of view, from young men point of view, from being respectful, all the assets, all the attributes that you guys presented with myself, I was like, I want to get to know these guys.
Thank you.
And then we've always said from the start, let's grow this as authentically, as organically as possible. Let's not jump in and do anything rash. And that's what's 6 months down the track. And I consider you like my little brothers. And I'll protect you and I'll look after you. And I know that's reciprocal, even though you can't look after me. But
I can try.
There's definitely an element of, well, I see it anyway, as a big brother, father figure through my experiences in life. Now, I'm never going to tell you what to do, but I'll always try and, you know what we say, you can never control, you can only influence. And that goes to my own parenting now. I can't influence my son to do certain things. I can't influence my daughter to do certain things. I can't control them to do it, but I can influence them. I can say, Jax, when you're playing football, have the most fun and work the hardest. But I can't control whether he does them or not. But I can drop little seeds into his head before he plays or trains. With my daughter, she's at a real rebellious age. She's 5.5. She's like pushing the boundaries of what she can and can't do. So I'm always trying to influence her to use your manners. Don't push me. You need to use your manners. You know, she's cheeky, man.
I'm giggling because I've only seen her a few times.
Yeah.
But what you're describing
She's adorable.
is...
She's bonkers, mate. She's destined for some good things, you know, just because of her heart and her sassiness and respectful and lovingness. I just see a bright future for her, as well as both my kids. But like I go back to the point, you're never successful. You're always successing, because no matter what you have in life, it's probably never going to be enough. If you've got $1 million, you want 2 million. If you've got 2 million, you want 10 million. If you've got 2-star pupils at school, you want them to have A+++. You can't get it. If you want them to be happy and healthy, you can gauge that. But in their little heads, they're probably not where they want to be because they've got aspirations and dreams. Yeah. So if you can get on their level as a parent, I feel, and encourage that effort, be it school, be it with your manners, be it with your friends, be it with your homework, whatever it is, the results will take care of themselves. And we've all got niches. You know, my son, he tries hard at school, but he's not that academic, exactly like me. So I say, did you do your best? Yeah, Dad. Cool. You're not always going to get an A. If you get a B or a C for try hard, or don't try, you do your best, I'm more than happy, man. Because I'm judging him on his effort, and now that will transpire into hopefully all facets of his life. When he makes his bed in the morning, son, that's not very good. Sorry, I'll do the corners better. Do it properly. Because you respect yourself more by putting the effort in.
I like that. And do you think a lot of those lessons are passed through sport?
Definitely.
And your experiences?
Yeah, I think so.
Because parenting's not easy. Well, I don't know, but I can tell and presume it's not easy. It's very difficult. But do you think the lessons learnt through sport have made it a little easier for you?
Definitely.
Yeah.
It's such a criticised, under the microscope industry, not just through yourself, because we're always our harshest critics. I said it before. But your teammates are critical of you. Your coaches will literally get a video up and pinpoint everything that you did right and wrong. The fans will always have their say. The media will always have their say. So you have to really have tunnel vision of where you can improve, where you can improve on the controllables. You can't improve on the uncontrollables. I can control certain things with my parenting, how I react, how I act, how I lead, by example. I think that's a big thing, and you're never going to get it perfect. Parenting is hard, and I have my worries, I have my doubts, like every other parent out there, because you just want what's best for them. And like I said before, I can be hard on my kids, but it's always coming from a place of love and what's best for them. It's never to growl at them because I want to growl at them. You never want to yell at your kids. But sometimes in that time, they need that lesson, a bit of tough love or whatever it is, because I'm trying to shape a young man and a young woman to be the best woman and man they can be. And I had tough love, and I turned out okay. And I'm sure all of us here had. But you see some people who get everything and they get babied, they grow up to 22, 23, they can't pay a bill. Or they don't know how to make their bed, or they can't even make toast. So for me, it's leading by example, coming from a place of love and respecting their emotions and their opinions, because they've got little emotions, they've got opinions, they're human beings, and not fobbing it off to the side and being like, don't cry, what's wrong with you? Validate their feelings and help them come up with not necessarily a plan, but an idea of how you can deal with this situation better next time.
Yeah.
Because you've obviously, all the mindset and everything you've learned along the way or worked on yourself. Obviously, Jax, he's in Liverpool's academy. Like, what sort of things do you try and put onto him? Like, what do you want him to realise in his game, whether it be mindset, whether it be his attitude?
Yeah, I talk about the uncoachable things. You can't coach him to work hard. You can't coach him to have great effort or attitude. You can't coach that into people, I don't believe. You can encourage them, but you can coach someone to use their bad foot or their non-predominant foot. You can coach people positional play. You can coach people how to, aim for the top bin and all these things. Yeah. So what I try and instill in him, first of all, is to have the most fun, because he's 11. I never want him to resent the game or fall out of love with the game. As long as he's having fun and enjoying it, he's going to get his head down when they lose or when he doesn't play well. Great. That's the competitive edge. But there's a fine line between hating it and dreading going to training or playing and being competitive.
I like that message a lot.
And I think, he's only 11, he's only a baby. And, he started to go through puberty and doing all these things. So there's emotions and all this and hormones, and I'm wary of that and I'm aware of them. But I think I say to him all the time, I'm like, look, if you wanted to be the world's best YouTuber, I can have a Google and try and help you, but it's not my forte. I said, if you wanted to be a politician, I can't help you, man. I can guide you and support you, but you've said to me you want to be a professional footballer. It just so happens I was a professional athlete for my whole adult life. And the football and rugby are different vehicles, but the uncoachables are the same. Be the player that other players want to play with, have the most fun, work the hardest, and the rest will take care of itself. If you take that then into all facets of your life, you're onto a winner, whatever you choose to do. I say, if you come to me and you say, I don't want to play football anymore, I say, that's cool. Let's give it 2 weeks, because you might just be having a bad day, or you might just be pissed off with your performance or your teammates or your coach or whatever it is. Let's give it 2 weeks. And then at the end of that 2 weeks, if you still feel the exact same way, let's look at something else, man.
Yeah.
I've lived my career. I've had my life. I want him to be happy. If he says he wants to become a ballet dancer or an actor or a whatever, I'll support him with everything I have. But I can't, and I won't, push him to do something he doesn't want to do.
What I heard there was interesting about football and rugby being different vehicles, and it's always fascinating for me when I see like somebody's child who, like Ronaldo, for example, he's got his son really good at football. You as a professional athlete, Jax, is really good at football. Yes, different vehicles, but is it sort of destined for a child when they grow up in that environment and you pass on the things that you've learned around culture, about attitude, mindset, everything like that, do you believe it's sort of destined for them to make it at the top of the game, whether it be football, actor, ballet dancer,
I
or
think probably
anything like
subconsciously, all those,
Good habits.
any parent, I suppose, you give your kids the best things that you've learned from and what you know. So I think it's probably a subconscious thing where everything that you've learned, all the best parts of your journey, you're sort of feeding that in the early years.
And this is no discredit to any parents out there by any stretch, but they can't pass on what they don't know. Whereas with you've reached the top of an industry. So those lessons that you've learnt along the way, you can now pass on to somebody else.
Yeah, I think, for example, Jack's, until the last 2 years, never seen me go to work. It was, I'm going to training. It was just, I've got training, or I've got a game. So in his little head, Dad didn't work. He was just like, I was going to training. Yeah. He'd see me come home after training and ice my legs. He'd see me drink litres and litres of water every day. He'd see me go to bed early, before him sometimes. He'd see me or hear about me getting up the crack of dawn to do certain things. He'd see what I ate, especially before a game. It's funny, he eats the same stuff I eat now before a banana and honey sandwich. That's what I used to eat before I played. And the tuna bake the night before, and he does it now. So, yeah, subconsciously, he'd never seen Dad go to work. So, yeah, that could definitely help. But there's also the other side of things. A friend of mine used to play in the Premier League, and he's got a son. And the team was saying to him, he just needs to be a bit more aggressive and a bit more tougher. And my mate was like, how? He lives in a mansion. He goes to private school. He's got everything he wants. Now, he's an amazing father. Teaches him everything. But whether it's consciously, subconsciously, I don't know. But everyone's different. It's like some of these greatest stories of kids that come from council homes because they're using that avoidance of pain as motivation. You know, Neymar and these guys growing up on the streets playing in cages. Phil Foden in the cages. Like, there's certainly an element of that for sure. But I think if you're going to make it, you're going to make it whatever. You know, I came from nothing and I made it. I didn't have a father who was an athlete. And I just think it's up to that kid to play the victor, not the victim. No matter what circumstances you're dealt, you didn't choose them. But you can choose how you react to them.
It's interesting.
Very. I really like touching on, you know, how the professional athlete side translates to a family side. Because I think, you know, for us, what we've got to consider as well is, yes, we're targeting quite a lot of our players with these podcasts, but I'm sure there's quite a lot of parents because, you know, when we get asked what's your market audience, well, you know, we pretty much market to parents because it's them that are going to be bringing them, it's them that are going to be funding it. So, you know, I think it's that what you've just touched on there for the last 10, 15 minutes is hopefully anyway, I'm not a parent, but hopefully is going to resonate with quite a lot of parents listening. I think for me where I can resonate with it a little bit more is through the business and how, you know, those same sort of individual lessons learned and those attitudes and those attributes that you have are still very relatable to. I remember the first conversation that we had, and when we started to get to know one another a little bit more, I always explained sort of my sport being business and how rugby and boxing was so important for you and how you visualize all these things and how you've done the kicks in front of 50,000 fans already. Like, I do the same, but vision, you know, where I'm going to be in 5 years' time, what's everything going to look like in 10 years' time. And I think that's how we probably got on with each other so early. But I mean, sort of you have those same drivers, you have those same passions within business and how success looks different, but you still want to achieve success in business. But what's that shift been like as well? Because with business comes managing staff and then all the legal sides to it and, you know, the marketing of it. Like, that is a completely different world, even though, again, the different vehicles, but it's sort of like the same journey in a way. So how's adapting to those different vehicles? The same way you sort of taken the lessons from sport, implemented in family. was having your own business easier again because you sort of still had all those fundamental values that you hold as a person that you was just able to implement into different areas then?
Yeah, I think there definitely is that part where they cross over. I think when I branched out and started my own business, it was the first time I'd ever had sort of freedom to be my own boss. For my whole adult life, it was be here at that time, wear this, eat that, stick to this game plan, all these things. And once I got out of that and became my own boss, I was like, far out, I can wear whatever I want. I can put that on the menu. I can do this. Oh, wow, man, this is unreal. And I was like, but then with that comes, but if I don't do the hard work, it fails. I was like, shit, okay, I've got to switch it up and learn, grow, evolve. And that's what I'm doing. And, you know, we've all got different selves in us. You know, we've all got hard-working self. We've all got entrepreneurial self, disciplined self, parenting self, friend self, all these things, right? And I found that I was struggling to cross over from entrepreneurial self. Then I'd have my kids and I'd be sending emails with my kids there and I'd be like, I don't like this. So now I've put little containers in where when I'm with my kids, they get my full attention. When I'm doing business, it gets my full attention. When I'm on this podcast, you guys get my full attention. And I think once you can categorize it that, and we all do it, we all wear masks. We all, whether we like it or not, when you go home to your partner, you're not Coach Adamaya.
I think it's being honest. That's what I'm trying to learn, and I'm getting better. And it's been a bit of a process, but I'm very much not quite as bad as I was. Rewind a few months, but
when you come here, you're not partner Jack Adamaya.
No.
Yeah. So we all switch in and out of them. Yeah. We just don't realize it. But as soon as I became aware of them, I could progress in making each self better. And I think that's helped a lot with myself. But yeah, moving forward, I just think it goes back to when I was a kid. I've come too far now. I've put my dreams and aspirations into being a successful entrepreneur and becoming financially free and all these great things. The same visualization, the same techniques, if you will, that enabled me to have a career, and now just in different vehicles again.
Do you think you're just incredibly obsessed with the idea of success?
Potentially.
In a good way, because it's like, you know, you was obviously highly driven to become successful in sport. Then it's very much, I'm going to be a successful father figure and family man. But then you also have that same drive in business. So, and to be spread across all three, to me, that probably comes from like internal, your...
Like, who do you do it for now?
Myself.
And that, I think that's where I'm going with. It's got to be you who's internally obsessed with that feeling of success.
I'm obsessed about about successing, but I'm obsessed with being grateful as well.
Because I'll be honest, I'm asking it quite selfishly to try and benefit me a little bit as well, because I do fear that, you know, in this mad, wild journey that we're on of football coaching and we're doing some incredible things and have done some incredible things, especially over the last couple of months, and what we're going to do in 2022 is going to be, you know, unheard of, and it's so exciting. But I always fear that, like, you know, and I know we're way off it, but what if I do all those things, then is there going to be another plan that comes in, and then the next year is going to be so exciting, and then we do that, and then it's going to be, well, what if we did this and change this? And like, is it a constant chase? Because for you're essentially achieve one thing, throw yourself onto a different journey. Achieve one thing, throw yourself, but you're essentially doing the same thing. The subject's just different.
Yeah, I live by a quote, and it's, a wise man is grateful for what he has, whilst being in constant pursuit of what he wants. For me, I'm so grateful for my career. I'm grateful for my fiance. I'm grateful for my kids. I'm grateful for my opportunities. But it's because I know I can do more. I can be a better father. I can be a better fiance. I can be a better entrepreneur. I can be healthier. I can be kinder, more caring. But I'm grateful that I still have all these attributes inside me. And then what that does, it takes away the external validation of anyone else, what they think of me. Because I'm judging my effort on getting better. And and growing.
And do you say do you practice that every day? Do you feel like you've hit the nail on the head with that?
Well, you go through phases of, people can write gratitude down and as a box ticking exercise, and I've been guilty of that. But I think I was on holiday in Greece with my fiance, and I literally, it's so corny, man. But I literally, we're walking down the path, and there were these beautiful flowers, and I just stopped and I smelled, and I was like, and she goes, "Did you just stop and smell the flowers?" I said, "Yes." I don't know why I did it, but I was just so grateful to see these beautiful flowers in a beautiful place with my beautiful fiance, and I'm like, nothing else matters right now.
Yeah.
Right now, I just wanted to smell those beautiful flowers, and I did it.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. And I was like, sometimes I'm guilty, we all are, of going, go, what's next? Do this, do that. Even with parenting, even with business, with relationships, whatever it is. Literally, sometimes we just have to stop and smell the flowers.
Yeah.
And that for me was a massive light bulb moment of just slow is fast sometimes. You can't give what you don't have. And if I'm tired, if I'm unhealthy, if I'm exhausted, if I'm stressed, that's what I am. So then I can't become a better partner, a better father, a better businessman, a better friend, a better mentor, unless I can be the best version of myself. So I'm driven to be the best version of myself to then give more people that I care about the better version.
Because you also do a lot of mentoring as well, and I've personally taken you up on that, and you've been speaking to me a lot over the last few months, and I think one of the biggest messages you've been trying to tell me is stop and smell the flowers. And it's essentially saying, just enjoy the moment that you're in, be grateful for the position you're in, be grateful for what you've got. And I think that again links with the question of me, where it's like, am I constantly going to be chasing something, or does it?
There's nothing wrong with chasing things. That it's actually it's a wonderful thing to be competitive and driven. They're amazing attributes, but your whole life can't be systemized to what's next, what's next, what's next.
Because then you'll never enjoy it, do you?
You'll never be grateful for it, because you'll never be fulfilled and satisfied with what you have. Like, if I ask you this honest question, I want an honest answer. Are you grateful for where your business is at right now? Let me simplify it. The look on the kids' faces when they learn a new skill, or they learn to use their non-preferred foot, or the laughter, the smiles they get. Are you grateful for that?
Yeah. And
how many kids from where you started, how many years ago, from 1 to a couple of hundred now, that's, say, 250x'd. How does that make you feel?
When put like that, amazing.
Yeah, there you go.
Therefore, it's stopping to smell the flowers.
Yeah. It's stopping and then seeing that, because I don't do that enough. Yeah. Where
we don't. We don't check back
but
in.
Then
with
is that good or bad?
Why is it bad?
Bad because maybe those feelings every now and again.
How did you feel? Yeah, how did you feel then?
Nice, like.
Yeah. What's wrong with feeling nice, man? It's a good thing.
Yeah.
It's like when you look at, if anyone's into this, like a chart on, say, a stock or a Bitcoin or something. You're going to see ups and downs if you do it on a day. Zoom out and see how far you've come. And be grateful for that journey, that effort. You're not where you want to be right now, which is fine. But be grateful for how far you've come. You've got 2 big, beautiful offices. You've got staff that love and respect you and will work hard for you. You're healthy. You have all these amazing things. They can never be taken for granted for.
I think that's a perfect conclusion of this week's podcast, I think.
Smell the flowers.
Yeah.
Smell the flowers.
Stop and smell the flowers. If there's anything you're going to take away, you stop and smell the flowers.
I think just dead quick before we wrap up, obviously, we've not really touched on sort of the position that you're going to be holding now. And I think, as we definitely see, and hopefully, the audience can see and hear the value that you have as a person, and the value that you can bring to the brand as well. So it's a pleasure to have you embedded into sort of the company structure now, and the operations of it. So that's definitely something that we're grateful for, and we're blessed to have you part of the team from now.
Yeah, and like I said, I see you guys as little brothers, and I want to look after you and help you grow, and that's as men first and as friends first, and then the business side of things. Well, you know, if I can help one aspiring athlete, 2, 3, however many it is, with certain other aspects of what they want to do to achieve their dreams, that's what it's about, man. I want to give back as much as I can, and you know, it's a hard road, but it's a road worth taking. And if you can have the support and the techniques available to you or to your kids, then if it makes them happy and it's going to assist them helping their dream, then you got to go all in on with it.
No, it's a pleasure. Thank you very much.
You
Cheers, boys. That's very deep, wasn't it?
It was
good.
It was good, that.